back at it again. What happens? Absolutely fucking nothing. Nothing ever happens. That is the one great rule of life. Nothing ever truly happens. I thought it was interesting to talk about this because I saw some fucking Twitter post or some shit. I don't know, but it was about the Luigi Manginoni guy. The guy who killed the Big Lad CEO recently. Quite an important event. You would think so at least. However, it was just the Twitter point. Basically pointing out that nobody gives a fuck about that anymore. Old news. Old news happened last week, literally out of my memory. Um, and I think it was a very interesting point because I do think far too often do things get commoditized and boiled down into trends. The idea of a trend is too strong. We must eliminate eliminate trends. A trend has gone from something that would last like a year or two, even like a whole generation of like I don't know, fucking old grannies into knitting. Weirdly, that trend's come back. I know a lot of people who love knitting now. But the average lifespan of a trend is shockingly short. What is a trend now is something that is popular for maybe a few days at most. If something can get as big as low taper fade, you know that becomes yeah, it's massive. It's that's probably as big as something gets. Something that maybe it kind of lasts a week of like actual hilarity, and then you get like another 3 weeks of that kind of like post-mortem, post-meme trend phase where people are still dragging it because there is weirdly humor in just dragging it out and seeing how far you can take it. Um, but in general, I think on the internet, a trend only lasts a few days. As I was saying, to link it back to this Luigi Maggioni thing, that was such a major event. Like you would think that that would be spoken about a lot more, especially because it was, clearly from what people spoke about when it happened, it was something that represented, like a lot of people's feelings on the topic. A lot of people were very displeased with the state of corporations, especially in America. From what I was reading, people were not very happy with it. There was a lot of, criticism towards them. So you'd think someone being pushed to the edge so far that they were willing to, Mr. CEO man, bang, fucking murder him on the streets. As big as that story became, you'd think people would engage with it on a more serious level for just a bit longer than 2 days. Like that trend came and died so fucking quick. But I think this is like a problem that we have far too often. And to link it back to my original point of nothing ever happens, you know, you've got to ask people like what I guess in the same sense to stop myself from going on like some bloated speech here. What do you expect people to do? After someone bang kills a CEO, everyone's fucking riled up. They're all like mad about CEOs. Like, what do you expect them to do? Like going out and lynching every CEO in the world, maybe not the best idea. Maybe not the best idea. But at the same time, surely you can use that as a leverage to kind of have like a more serious debate within politics and kind of go like, hey, obviously, not to use it as a threat, but like, clearly there has been, a boiling pot of frustration here, and it has led to one person making a very high profile murder. Maybe we should reevaluate the situation and kind of rethink what we're doing here, guys. Maybe we shouldn't let CEOs become so unbelievably unchecked that they can just like, who am I going to scam today? The elderly and the broke. Because that does seem to be the conclusion that they all come to time and time again. Um, and I do think, in part, that is a failure on the people. The fact that everyone kind of saw this and they were like, they were more willing to engage with the humor and the kind of hilarity out of it, instead of taking it and doing anything seriously, kind of, like, I don't know, petitioning or some shit. Like, what do you even do now? But I think that's a very fair point as well, is, what do you even do? Like, what do you even do with a situation like this? Like, I mean, as I always go back into, like, politics is so fucking corrupt. It's not like you can go to like your local politician and be like, hey, can you please campaign against CEOs for me? Because the guy's just gonna be like, no, I don't care if 100,000 of you come to me. Fuck you, no, they pay me, bitch. So you're kind of like, catch 22 there. Like people are pissed off. Maybe killing all the CEOs isn't a good idea, but like, what can you actually do to campaign against them in a more serious manner? Because that's never going to be taken seriously, and all the politicians are being paid off by them anyway. So it doesn't really matter how much leverage you get there. Nothing ever happens, you know. Um, so I do think that's an interesting one. I was thinking about that today. Um, you know. And maybe I should edit my videos. Maybe I should like edit them and like cut parts out of me just thinking. Or maybe I'll just leave it in. Maybe I'll just leave this whole segment of me just being like, what should I say next? Hmm, let me think. Give me 1 second to think. Huh. Um, yeah. It's kind of strange that Elon Musk is now like what part of the US government off the back of this as well. You know, like there was such a rising frustration with CEOs, and then one of them got murdered, and then everyone was just like, yeah, let Elon Musk become like part of the government. Let this world famous, world renowned, because he's beloved. Yeah, the most loved CEO on the planet become part of the US government. Maybe. Like it feels kind of strange. I think that's a very good example of just like the failure, the failure of people to kind of like band together and like voice anything. I do think that's a problem though, is like because of the internet, everyone has a problem with everything. Like you as a group can never band together to do fucking anything because there will always be 100,000 contrarianists that are gonna come out of the woodworks and be like, Starlink and trains and I huff Elon Musk's farts. Like it doesn't matter what kind of criticisms you can have against this fucking like gigantic loser. I think it's pretty fair to say Elon Musk is kind of a loser. You can definitely look at some of his accomplishments and go like, okay, some of them maybe smart business moves where you're sat there with a shitload of money with literally the options to do absolutely anything in the world, and you go like, oh, I could do this option to make more money. Maybe in that moment you're like, okay, maybe we can praise this guy for not being like mentally challenged with some of his business moves. Um, X, Y, and Z. I do think this the SpaceX stuff. It's kind of hard to deny that from what I've seen at least. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they are the kind of forerunners of like space science at the moment. I don't really see like everyone's just doing bullshit. Everyone's just fucking sat on their hands, just going like, the American fucking space program. Yeah, we put people on the moon like a billion years ago, and now we've never even bothered trying for like ages. So within the space field, I think that his SpaceX program is at least interesting. It seems to be the only one I'm hearing about, but that might be fucking propaganda from him that he's just like, oh, personally, I'm going to buy out Twitter, so the only thing you ever hear about is my SpaceX program and not anybody else's. I don't know, fucking Uganda could be launching shit into space for all I know, and I would never know because all of my media platforms are bought out by some billionaire that's never going to tell me about that. But yeah, like kind of odd that he's now part of the government. People just let that happen. Oh, sorry, that's what I was gonna get back to. Yeah, I was gonna say like you can't really make a movement to like stop this. You can't even like get like a group of people to be like, hey, maybe don't allow Elon Musk into the White House and give him like a room, fucking Elon Musk's room where he can sit and lie about being a gaming god in. Um, because you're gonna have so many people every single time who are just gonna muddy the fucking waters, and I think this is the biggest problem on the internet is everyone is out to muddy the waters on every topic humanly possible. Now, I do think there is a problem if you're someone who sits in like a world where everything is either a black and white and everything is like an absolute, this is good, this is bad, you must agree with me, and if you don't, you're fucking wrong and evil. Because you get way too many of those people as well. Hands down, way too many of those people online and this is what I mean by like going online. It kind of becomes discombobulating and insane a lot of the time because you get far too many of those people where I saw one where it was you ever see that situation with the what's his name, Tommy something, I don't know, the comedian, I say comedian, the Twitch streamer that's in North Korea, no, not North Korea, South Korea, and is like going to jail and shit over there for generally being a disrespectful asshole towards the population. And I made a comment on an Instagram page, and I was just like, hey, completely fair that he faces the loss, like the legal system. He has committed many crimes in this country, as well as the fact that he's shown, a lot of willing to do this in other foreign countries. He very much has made it like a staple of his character to go to somewhere, push the limits and the boundaries of what he can do about breaking laws, and then leave the country before he gets arrested or anything. I mean, I think he did it in Japan. He was arrested in Japan, and they basically went, he seems sorry, we'll just let him go and hope he doesn't do it again. And then he went to South Korea and did it again. So I was like, okay, of course, you know, full legal system, have him, whatever. And then this fucking Funko Pop collector, I shit you not, this page that was just dedicated to collecting Funko Pops was like, no, we need to kill him, kill this man. What's he done? Generally just been very disrespectful, to a legal extent. He has been disrespectful to a population to the point where it is classified as a crime. He has done many things that are a crime via vandalism, XYZ, etc., etc. He does have criminal charges against him. Smokes weed, so I can't really complain about that one. But smokes weed, it's legal over there, so it's whatever. Face the justice system and all that kind of shit. Um, but this fucking Funko Pop collector comes and he's like, no, we should murder them. We should fucking kill him. Like the most vitriolic, hate fuel spewing garbage ever. And there are way too many of those people as well. I see that a lot online, where it's like, be real, okay? Like, we have a legal justice system for a reason, like the level of like fucking classification of prison that you go into to separate the type of criminals, because we have tons of different definitions of kind of, I guess, like how wrong different crimes are, like stealing a bit of money, stealing a bit of food, very different to, murdering someone on the streets. Two very different crimes. I think someone stealing food still has the right to live. Controversial opinion, apparently, according to Funko Pop collectors. All of them are just like, no, 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 no. What if they steal my Funko Pops? They must die. But for some reason, you've got a lot of people out here who seem like I hate to say, but it almost seems like a slight autism thing. It almost seems like a slight autism thing where people are like, if you're even remotely on the other side of the law, you deserve immediate death. And I am kind of like, whoa, guys, whoa. Whoa, maybe we don't do this, Actually, I take it back. Probably it might not be an autism thing. I think it was just an autism thing in the case of this one Funko Pop collector that I was interacting with online. But like, you get my point. Is that like, living in this like fully black and white, everything's either good or bad world, not very good. But at the same time, it becomes incredibly hard to like band together under any kind of movement online, because there will be a billion people who are just trying to muddy the waters and divide people as much as possible. So anytime you do get a movement going, it's immediately divided into like 8 different sub-factions that all have, very vocal, varying beliefs and do not really want to be associated with the 7 other sub-factions of it, because they've got to be like, no, for the classification, we're like this part of, we're this contrived part of this 8-piece pie, um, and that kind of shit just gets tiresome. I think that's why no one wants to interact with anything online, like you got to go through all this bullshit. It's just fucking, it's boring, it's tedious. I mean, this is definitely the like social media part of our brains where everything's got to be like a story, like the good versus bad, So the second it gets chopped up and it's like, well, it's not really the good versus bad. It's kind of the like slightly lighter morally gray side versus the darker morally gray side a lot of the time, which just makes it, I guess, less interesting to interact with, other than fucking, I guess, what else is there on the internet? Fucking, what's the new low table fade? We need a new low table fade, something that's massive, and then everyone's just gonna jump on that, and then no one's gonna give a fuck about like the CEO killer or anything in like a week, because they're gonna be on the next massive thing. It's so massive, dude. It's crazy. I do think that like there are CI programs, CI fucking CIA, CI fuck. CIA programs where they've got like a ton of like people sat in a room, and like anytime anything happens, anytime someone's like, Elon Musk just threw up a Nazi salute at the inauguration, they're like, oh shit, code red, guys, spam as many memes as you can, what can we think of, low taper fade, spam it, and then you've just got like a ton of like fucking like kids that are becoming slightly too self-aware. They're on Instagram Reels, they're like, oh, Elon Musk just threw up like a Nazi salute, like, oh, is this bad, guys? Low taper fade, and then they just like lose their mind. Like that sentience they almost gain, just like immediately deleted, because you've got like, I don't know, the fucking Arabian meme program where they're just spamming shitty like fucking soy jacks, and that's enough to get people to go like, oh my god, what's that, politics, ugh, get that shit out, what's that, current events, ugh, get that shit out, I've got to make more room to download more late trends, what is that, the entirety of Fortnite lore, beam it straight into my fucking eyes, fucking like it does seem like that slightly, where you've actually have like active groups of people who are just like straight up able to like keep the entire population entirely timid just through the use of social media. And it's partially why I think, I have this, I say it to my friends, but I say that I think MK Ultra ended in name only and became the internet, you know? That's all it did. All that has happened is that this phone has more control over the general population than any amount of drugging, any amount of torture you're ever going to get. Like any amount of individual control, because you control the general masses with this. If you want people to do something, which 99% of the time is going to be nothing, because nothing ever changes. If you're a billionaire, what do you want to happen? You want the world to stay exactly the same, so any loophole you're currently using never leaves. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna get people to brain rot on their phone 1 billion hours a day. Stream it straight into my mind, you know? I think that's what's kind of going on. Like a lot of the time now, you do have any current event, like the Luigi Maggioni thing. There was definitely CEOs, like CEOs of other fucking health companies that were sat there and they go like, guys, this is getting too massive. It's overtaken low taper fade. What do we do? We've got to spam skibbity toilet memes. Get the youth focusing on something else. They're not tweeting about Luigi Maggioni's abs or some shit, you know? Like just get the focus off of him. Get the focus removed. You know, like that shit gets kind of terrifying sometimes. When you do see this like actual mental brainwashing that happens like past so many events. Like honestly, 9/11 could happen tomorrow and people would forget about it 4 days. I give people 4 days before they forget about like a new fucking 9/11 type event. You could have the half of England be bombed, just deleted, wiped out of the earth from a nuke, and as long as like more nukes don't follow, dude, people won't give a fuck in a week. You know, give it a week and someone will just make a joke about Luton finally being gone, and then everyone's gonna be like, "Yo, goodbye Luton," and that's gonna become like the new low taper fade. It's gonna be massive, and no one's gonna give a shit. You know, like it is kind of terrifying because I think, especially with the internet, like the people, the general people had a lot of control on it a while ago. Like it doesn't feel that long ago before you would say corporations were kind of comically stupid in the way that they interacted with the internet, and they really didn't have any good idea of how to like interact. And everything was a very clear ad. It was very easy to distinguish what was um like an average kind of internet user trying to push something and what was like a company trying to be like, hey, we promise this isn't an ad, this is just a very convenient advertisement placement. Buy our pug gift cards, you know? I'm totally not a paid advertiser. I'm just shilling this product super hard for no reason. And like somehow that has now evolved into like mental brainwashing from whatever new meme comes out, something happens, oh my god, nothing ever happens, quickly spam their phones. Um and like I think that is kind of, it's a bit terrifying sometimes, especially when you see it in the political sphere. It gets really bad in the political sphere, especially. Like I don't know, I don't I speak to a few Americans, so I kind of like they seem to agree with me when I say this, but there does seem to be like almost like an overload of things that happen in politics. Every other week there's something going on. Obviously, like the main narrative has been obviously the whole like Trump versus who the fuck is even Kamala Harris, like that kind of thing. But there's that because something happens every single week. There's always like Kamala's done something, Trump's done something, and it's like every other week, and it becomes like a massive story gets pushed. It's almost like tedious and tired to keep up with because there's always something else to care about and have an opinion on. The second anything happens, it's got to not happen because something else is going to happen next week, and you've got to be ready to like care about that, and it completely overrides what happened last week. You don't even really get time to like fully digest and understand what's happened and formulate an opinion because you never get time to do that. Something happens on the internet, and if you don't have the most strong, staunch opinion on it in like within a day of maybe even a couple hours of it coming out, something can happen, and there is never room for people to sit there and go, damn, that's crazy. I kind of, it's too big to have an opinion on right now. I'm just gonna kind of sit, brew on it, kind of think through my thoughts a little, and like maybe in a week I'll have something to say on it. There's no room to do that anymore because in a week no one's gonna give a fuck. You're gonna be out, you're gonna be late. You're gonna be fucking boomerishly old and slow to get to stuff. And like I don't know, man. Like who can keep up with that pace? Like surely that's just tired. And it's strange because I do see with like a lot of my friends with this, like you do see it's like there's kind of like a period of time where people are really good at keeping up with that kind of stuff. Every other week they can have an opinion, they can really go through it. And I feel like for me and a lot of my friends, it was when we were in school, late into the period of school where it's like you're old enough to have a phone, but you're also not leaving school and having to get a job and do university and actually give a fuck about the world. So you've just got a lot of free time on your hands, and you're a dumb kid that thinks you're smart enough to be an adult. And it's kind of then that you do genuinely have the time and kind of like mental capacity to keep up with some of this stuff, and you can kind of formulate those opinions quick enough to be able to engage with it. And I think that's mirrored with what you see online a lot, because a lot of the time you realize that a lot of the people who are engaging with these debates and kind of like pushing things to happen every single week and pushing everyone to have an opinion on them, they tend to be fucking children. You know, the amount that there are more children engaged in political debates online than there are actual adults voting now. Like, it seems ridiculous. It seems fucking ludicrous. And it's crazy how that's kind of like pushed everyone else out of these spheres. No one gives a fuck anymore. You can't afford to give a fuck because children give the most fucks. Children care the most about everything, and you're never going to be able to beat them. That swag destroyer 69 that was berating you online for being slow and like inept at politics, that was an 8-year-old child. That was an 8-year-old child, you know, and they were fucking running circles around you. They're not going to have time to vote because they're a child. They're not going to be able to. So all of their opinions mean kind of nothing, and you should be ignoring them. But it's still enough to be like, oh, you know, the people engaged seem to care way more than I do. So like, I'm just gonna take a step back and not give a fuck. Um, yeah, I think that happens way too much. It is children and the deranged. You know, the deranged run the internet. It is crazy. Like the the inmates run the asylum because that's really how bad it's gone. You know, you go online anytime now and it is genuinely like mentally deranged. Like, you know, actual psych ward patients online half the time. I think that's the only way I can, you know, as you see, my psych ward, you know, asylum that I live in, decent enough that I can kind of engage with it. Anyway, I just think that's hit 20 minutes. I got no clue what the fuck I'm talking about. I'll be real. Yeah. Peace.